Hi everybody, this is Derek Harden. Welcome to the live chat show. This is the 70th and I'm delighted to have Amy Rowlinson with us. Just a few pieces of housekeeping. In my newsletter, in my briefing this morning, I talked about Brexit, typical professional negotiating tactics. No one's going to give anything, so we'll cancel the meetings, don't bother to come, but there's still a 50% chance of getting agreement. Well, if you look at that, it doesn't make too much sense. It's just a sort of negotiation tactics, but they're negotiating tactics for pretty high stakes. And the EU, Michael Barnier, has been playing those all along. He seemed to get his own way with Mrs. May. He's not getting his own way with Boris's negotiators, but it's interesting to see how that one will play out. I've also put in my newsletter a quote from Winston Churchill, which I love: "Jaw rather than war, but at the end of the day," and those of you know that whether you like Boris or not, he has written a rather good book about Winston Churchill, which he seems to use some of Churchill's negotiation tactics. I've also got some great speakers coming up for the next 5 weeks. We've got Jane Gunn, the barefoot mediator, Sally Kettle in 2 weeks' time, who rode across the Atlantic with her mum, Graham Davis to comment on the elections in the US, and perhaps Tim to comment as well, and then Will Kintish with his all brand new spanking presentation. No pressure there, Will. I'm watching your body language carefully. But first of all, today I'd love to introduce Amy Rowlinson. Amy, who's recorded and delivered her 100th podcast today. That's fantastic. Congratulations, Amy. That's absolutely brilliant. And you started, like I started these, on the day of lockdown. Also, Amy was the winner of the Professional Speaking Association Southeast Regional competition, which is a great feat in itself. Lots of pressure on there when you're speaking in front of your peer group. Welcome, Amy. I think the title of what you're going to talk to us about is your work fulfilling, or are you just filling the moment, with some questions and some drilling down afterwards. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, Amy Rowlinson.
Thank you very much, Derek. It's a great introduction. So yes, the podcast today was 100, which is pretty incredible considering I only launched that podcast on the 30th of April. So it's been a lot of people sharing their why, and it's actually now led me to talk about fulfilling life in today's sort of podcast with you guys here. So let me just share my screen and just check that that's working. I've shared the right screen with you all.
That's working fine, Amy. Yeah.
Thank you. Is your work fulfilling, or are you just filling in the moments? Who you are, what you do, and what you have is all within your control. And what you want to have determines who you become and what you do. What are you doing? Are you living, or are you existing? In life, we often overcomplicate things. And in this short presentation, I'm going to share with you 5 practical tips that will make life a whole lot simpler for you. Things that seem really straightforward, but you're probably not doing. Strategies that you can apply straight away, which will help you to problem solve, achieve clarity of vision, rid limiting beliefs, find fulfillment, and save some time. Sound good?
Sounds brilliant.
Great. So if you have any questions as we go along, just jot them down and I'll take them all at the end. I think it'll be easier that way so that we can then go through specifics, because there's likely to be similar questions that people have and we can go through it that way. So as I said, the way you live your life is as a result of your everyday choices. In fact, every choice or decision you make determines the outcome. And it was Aristotle who said, we are what we repeatedly do. Now you have the power to change your life by changing your choices. Your choices shape your actions until they become habits, where practice makes them permanent. Now, do you have a purpose and a plan? Do you carve your own life in your own way? And do you focus on why? My motto for life is that it's never too late to be what you might have been. And I advocate midlife beginnings as opposed to midlife crises. So when I'm coaching, the first question I ask my clients is why? Why they want to be, do have the things they're talking about, because why is the foundation of everything. And focusing on why and taking responsibility for everything you do in life not only enables you, it empowers you to design anything you desire. Defining your purpose and then standing by that purpose at all costs will ensure that you meet your goals and stay on mission. So the process that I have starts with why, and it leads to what, and it leads to how, and it leads to you. And the focus runs simultaneously across all of these areas. So I'm going to be talking about the why, the what, the how, you, and focus today. So let's look at that again. I've broken it down. The first one is why. It's the purpose, and we're going to be talking about solving problems. The what, vision, we're going to be talking about thinking time. How, habits, and Derek's asked me to talk about journaling. And then you, I'm going to be talking about values, finding fulfillment through them. And then we've got focus, which is the final one, how we're going to gain some time back. So let's start with why. What is your purpose? How do you find your purpose? Well, actually, it's not as simple as just finding it. Some people do find it, but others create it. However, one thing I can tell you for certain is you're not going to find it sitting on the sofa watching telly. So how do we find purpose, and why do we need purpose? Well, our purpose determines who we are. And as humans, we're actually built for purpose. We're driven by purpose. But don't be intimidated by this word purpose. Just see it as the thing that you want to focus on more in life than anything else. By focusing on what we love, we combine our passion with our mission, and we get fulfillment. By focusing on what the world needs and what pains we can solve, we combine our mission with our vocation, and we spot market opportunities. By focusing on what we can be paid for, we combine our vocation with our profession, and we can find comfort and value in what we offer. And by focusing on what we're good at, we combine our profession with our passion, and we get great satisfaction. As I said, why is the foundation for everything, which is why your business should be built around it and become its constant heartbeat. Who you are and what you do matters, and why you do it matters most. How does your work affect others? Is it life-changing in any way? My first tip today is talking about how we can simply help others by solving their problems or their pains, because this will give you fulfillment and purpose. By finding a cause that you believe in and raising awareness on a local, national, or even a global scale, you will find your purpose. And I want you to write down 2 questions and take some time later to problem solve through these solutions for them. The first question is, what problem needs solving in the world that you can help with? And what do you most want to accomplish? Why and how? So I'll say those again. What problem needs solving in the world that you can help with? And what do you most want to accomplish? Why and how? Because when you know who you can help and what impact you can have, you place people at the heart of your decisions, and you create purposeful, fulfilling work which solves personal, professional, and even global problems. So that's the why. Let's focus on the what. If you do have a purpose, do you have a plan? Now, like many people, I didn't focus on why I did anything. I just existed like this until my early 40s. I did what I needed to be done. I had my daily choice list of chores, and I even had a bucket list. I'm sure we've all got a spreadsheet there with the things we want to do, but mostly I rolled with life day in and day out, not questioning why, and just drifting from one event to another. I didn't have that clear why. I didn't even really think about what I wanted in life or what legacy I might be leaving behind. But with a clear focus on why and taking control of my life, moving from just existing to living with a definite purpose and a plan, I stopped filling in the moments and now have found work that is fulfilling. So what is the tip to achieve this clarity of vision? Well, it's taking time out to think. Now, it sounds simple, and it is, but do you do it? There's a great book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith J. Cunningham. And in that book, he shares a key insight as to how to avoid dumb mistakes that sabotage growth, profits, and business success. And one of the greatest tools that he shares in this book is thinking time. So what is it and how do you do it? Well, first, prepare a high quality question. And the quality of this question is going to determine the quality of the answer. So take yourself into a quiet space where you won't be distracted or interrupted for 45 minutes. No phones, no computers, just several blank sheets of A4 paper and a pen. And spend 45 minutes on that one question that you've selected. What are you aiming to achieve in this time? Well, you're looking to separate the problem from the symptoms, looking for the root cause. And you're looking to differentiate the facts from assumptions. And you're going to ask yourself questions that you've previously gone unasked. By addressing second order consequences, you're creating the plan that will solve the core problem that you can identify to move forward. So one question, 45 minutes. And I really, really recommend it. Just try this. So let's focus on the how and moving into habits. Now, the secret to overnight success, as we all know in business, is not overnight. It can take many years, and it's taken me almost 5 decades, but it really does take time to create something great. And as James Clear said in his book, Atomic Habits, focusing on your habits is far more important than worrying about your outcomes. So let's talk journaling. Now, who journals here? Anyone? Well, I started journaling back in December 2016. So December the 6th was my first date there. And that takes me all the way through to today, which is 1,412 days of consecutive journaling. And these are some of the images from the early journal entries that I've got. So what have been the benefits for me for journaling? Well, I find it's an honest reflection or a snapshot of how I felt at that exact moment in time. And it also shows growth and learning over time. So it helps you to remember the smaller moments and not just the big events. Because writing daily in the moment means you can't modify your memory as we often tend to do. It's written there in black and white or in color, as you can see. I like to use mine. And it's an opportunity to share your vulnerabilities, your inspirations, your aspirations, all on the same page. You see gratitude there that you have. You can put your concerns, your fears, your doubts, your achievements, and it gives you a really balanced picture of your life in a whole page. It's a great opportunity to keep track of your goals, to visualize your future, whilst improving your communication and writing skills. So it's a brilliant way to get your ideas out of your head and onto paper. And you can use a journal to write down your key learnings from books you've read or seminars you've attended, and recording them will help you to remember them. And I journal around my reflections and observations because it enables me to listen to myself to make informed decisions and wise choices. Because writing down experiences gives you a great perspective and clarity around circumstances. It actually reduces your stress levels and helps to problem solve and keeps you present. Now, there's a particular type of journaling which I want to share with you, which is I call streamless journaling. I don't think that's an actual word, but it's streaming, meaning that you just keep on writing. And I'm going to give you an example, but I've blurred it out because it's very personal to me, what I've written. And what I want to share with this is that according to the National Science Foundation, an average person has about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Now that varies for each person, but of those, 80% are deemed to be negative and 95% are repetitive thoughts. So if we keep on repeating those negative thoughts, we're starting to think in a negative way, much more than we are in a positive way. So my top tip, number 3 today, will really help you to reduce the amount of negative thoughts that you have in the form of journaling. As I said, I've blurred this image out, but streaming journaling as you write continuously upon waking in the morning before you do anything else You journal out your unconscious mind every morning. And why would you do that? Because you can get all of your complaints out onto paper, which clears your mind and really sets you up for the day. It gives your thoughts space and acknowledgement, which gives them much less power over you. So what do? Well, you literally just start writing, and it may even look like rubbish for the start. It may not make any sense, and that doesn't matter. You're going to be writing without any filter at all. You're going to be writing exactly what's flowing through your mind in a completely uncensored way. And you may notice as you write down all your thoughts, they start to have much less power over you, as just by giving yourself the time to focus on you is an act of compassion and acknowledgement of your needs. And as a daily exercise, it really allows you to grow. So don't judge yourself, just really write freely. Don't overthink this. And after several days, go back to your journal and with a highlighter, mark up every comment where you have been negative or self-sabotaging. And I want you to write out those negative statements separately and identify those limiting belief thoughts that your inner critic has been saying to yourself. And rewrite all of these statements into positive self-belief statements that you can then choose to focus on instead. And these then become sort of daily mantras or affirmations, and they're incredibly powerful because changing your language will change everything for you. So moving on to you, as an individual, your core values form the internal compass from which you operate both on a personal level and a professional level. But when was the last time you considered your values, and are you living your life in accordance with them? When you know your values, you are more able to spot opportunities, make wise decisions and informed choices. Understanding and living by your highest values will enable you to discover what is most important to you in life, who you really are, and how to live a life of authenticity, purpose, and fulfillment. Essentially, you'll know why you do what you do. You discover your purpose. And your business values should ideally reflect the values of the individual business owner or founder. But that's not always the case. Quite often, business values simply form a neat short list of social idealisms rather than genuine considerations of the principles which will ultimately formulate every part of that business's culture. So your business values should be really carefully considered in the initial stages of creation by the founders and continually reassessed in terms of progress and adherence to these values. If you're finding your work unfulfilling, it's highly likely that your work is not actually aligned with your highest values. And whether it's business or personal, everyone's whys are unique. And however, when you align your values with those of others, you share the vision and you share responsibility. Does your business focus on why? So my practical tip number 4 today is you don't work simply to work. You work to fulfill your needs and your values. Align your work with your values to become valued for your work. And it's staggering just what you can achieve individually and collectively when you focus on values. So first, do you know what your core values are? Because they ultimately drive your decisions and dictate your direction. So when was the last time you even considered them, and are you being true to them? So take some time to reassess your core values and think about how you need to adapt or realign your business. And I've got a PDF that I'm going to share with you just after this presentation, which will help you go through that process of identifying your core values. So I'm going to finally focus on focus itself. And what is focus? Well, as I said before, we often overcomplicate things in life, and I want to make it much more simple for you by starting to focus on a much smaller set of things. In fact, I want to focus on just one thing. There's magic with the power of focus. Multitasking is not productive. Focusing on the most important thing is the important thing. But what can focus give you? It gives you power, persistence, drive, creativity. It's critical for decision making because we are often doing way too many things. We need to filter out the noise, as it will sidetrack you and eventually end up not achieving very much at all. Have you ever lost time or track of time because you've been so absorbed in your work, where hours feel like minutes and you forget everything else that's going on in the world outside of you? When you're so completely focused on that one task at hand, you're happy, you're in control, you're more creative and productive. This is a concept introduced by Csikszentmihalyi, a positive psychologist, in what he called being in a state of flow. And you are in the moment simply being present. This is why you may have heard expressions in your flow, against your flow, go with the flow, let things flow. Because when you achieve flow, you are happier, your stress is reduced, your productivity is increased, and you're focused on quality, not quantity. And you achieve things instead of just being busy. Being able to focus and achieve that flow state takes some time and requires a bit of trial and error, adapting, learning, and improving. So you need to keep learning what works best for you, and practicing, you will become much more able to tap into flow state. There's no magic recipe for finding happiness, but in flow, you can have optimal experience where our mind is in order. I'm sure you've heard of Parkinson's law, where any task you undertake swells to the amount of time that you allow yourself to spend on it. However, if you time chunk your diary so that you're working on income generating tasks and key result areas in the times of the day when you're most likely to be in a flow state, you're going to be more productive and achieve better results. But how do you know when is the best time? So my final and fifth tip of the day is to work in alignment with your chronotype. Yes, chronotype. We all have different biological clocks, but are you working with or against your natural rhythm? Clinical psychologist Dr. Michael J. Breus has researched into this area and has written a book called The Power of When, and has designed a quiz with the same name, which will help you to identify when is the best time for you to do everything in life. And it's fascinating just how effective it is when you adjust your daily activities to be in sync with your natural body clock. I'm going to share the free test in the chat box in a moment. There are 4 chronotypes, and they're actually names of animals. There's a lion, a bear, a wolf, and a dolphin. And I am a lion, and I'm curious to find out what you all are. So the why always comes first, and understanding the why you do what you do before you can even sell your products or your services, because the why keeps you on track, and it holds you accountable for every action and decision. And that's why you have to focus on why, as it's not just enough to start with why, you have to hold it close to everything you continue to do and focus on it on an ongoing basis. So this evening I've shared with you 5 practical tips which will help you to problem solve the world's problems by understanding what you can do to help. Achieve clarity of vision using the thinking time tool. Rid your limiting beliefs through the habit of journaling. Finding fulfillment by focusing on your values, and saving time by understanding when you are in flow state. So your purpose, your why, sets the course for your life, your business. Make sure you're on the right path. Remember, you do find happiness in your journey and not at the destination. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.
Fantastic, Amy. Thanks very much. I'll just check my cards out. I've got the right card up there, haven't I? That's brilliant.
I've got some resources there if anybody wants to take a screenshot, or I can actually drop them all into the chat in a moment as well. And that's just some books that I find have been helpful on the journey of what I've been talking about today. And if anybody wants to get in contact with me directly, there's the link to the podcast and also to my LinkedIn.
Okay, brilliant. Maybe you put a couple of those in the chat box.
I'll do that now, yeah.
While I make a few statements and ask you a few questions before I throw it open to anybody else, then we'll turn the recording off for people who want to ask other questions. Number 1 that I wrote down was, you shouldn't tell us that you were in your early 40s. You look like you haven't made 40 yet. So that was
my late 40s, actually.
strategic mistake, if you don't mind me saying so. I've had to coach someone at 75 not to keep saying they're 75, particularly there in America, and 1 or 2 people might guess who that is. Second point, I'm really looking forward to my midlife crisis when I get there. I've already bought my sports car quite a while ago, so that when I get there, I can drive it. There's one or two other people in the same boat on this call, but I won't name them. Number 3, I've read Atomic Habits 2 or 3 times quickly, and it is a great book, and there's lots of tips in there. Number 4, I call it auto writing. And I find it particularly helpful when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as a lot of people do that have a lot on their minds, and I can't get back to sleep. And I just get an A4 sheet of paper and write down everything that comes into my head. And of course, my hand can't keep up with it. I don't know what that's actually called in psychology. You call it streamless journaling. I call it auto writing. I must have read that from someone.
Yeah, the morning pages, I think, was Julia Cameron. She called it morning pages in the artist's way as well. Another.
It is a great thing to do, because what you're doing is dumping it out of your head onto paper, which helps the brain calm down and go to sleep. And I noticed once on Christmas Day, when I went to the cemetery to pay respects to my mum and dad, how many Christmas cards there were left there with big notes on it to their parents. And I thought, well, that's a funny old thing to do. Then I thought about it. They're again writing their feelings down and leaving it by the tombstone. I'm sure there's lots of psychological things on that go with it. And I've never heard of chronotype. I wasn't quite sure what that was. So what can you repeat chronotype, and then I'll go back to some things in the chat. There's some stars coming up in the chat box from sad people who've got to their midlife crisis, like me.
Well, so The Power of When is this book here, and it's learning the best time to do everything. And it's a really interesting book because we do have throwbacks in our genetics of when we naturally are more alert, when we're naturally, because the whole concept was that we had the 4 different chronotypes. So the dolphins have, in real life, dolphins have 2 hemispheres, and they actually only sleep with 1 hemisphere, so they're safe in the water, so they can actually carry on swimming and being aware of what's going on. And that's where a lot of people in life are still very light sleepers, because they would have been naturally on alert all the time, looking after the sort of group of people they're responsible for. And then we have the people who are lions, who are really early risers, who get up and they are active early and they want to do that. And then they have the bears, who are much more sluggish in the morning, and they do a later shift. And then the wolves do the final shift at the night. So it's working out where you are most in your peak during the day, and when's the best time to exercise, when's the best time to eat, when's the best time to be working, making decisions. And then if you time chunk your diary around all of that, you're going to be much more productive, because you are making the right decisions and doing the right things at the right time. Very easy to get carried away reading books at times when you should be probably pitching for business. So you can get distracted by doing the wrong things at the wrong time. And that's where understanding your natural timing of your day will really help you.
Is that linked to circadian rhythms?
Exactly.
Energy goes up for 90 minutes, comes down for 90 minutes. The gremlins are getting into the chat show tonight. Now, John Lisby, who of course I know has lots of time, says finding time to write your how do you find time to write your journal when you have to take the dog for a walk? But I know he's being facetious there. He's also got a Jag XK. That's a serious old man's car, John, if you don't mind me saying so. You need to get yourself a Porsche. That would be much more trendy for you. And Sally Kettle, who's joined us and is joining us in 2 weeks' time, has put the book, which I've got on my bookshelf, but I can't possibly say his name, this guy. His name's
you get a prize if you can pronounce it.
Yeah, go on, Sally.
I know I can't either, so I'm not even volunteering. Mihai, Send Mihai.
Yeah, like that.
It is a famous book, isn't it? And it's quoted on all NLP, neuro-linguistic program courses. I found it a bit too heavy for me, but the more intelligent people could probably read it okay. You probably read it when you were rowing the Atlantic, Sally, did you?
Oh God, no. I read Harry Potter, and then my crewmate said, "Oh, by the way, Dumbledore dies," and I nearly threw overboard. There was nearly only 3 of us on the boat, but
Sally's joining us in 2 weeks' time. I did tell them that earlier, Sally, and I also said that in my newsletter this morning. You did row the Atlantic twice. The second time with your mum, who you didn't get on with until you were about 25. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, actually, she was the first person I rowed with the first time. Yeah.
Okay, I never was good on detail. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
don't no. It's my responsibility to tell the story, so don't worry about that.
Okay,
Well,
well,
Derek, you can read the book, you know, Sally's Odd at Sea.
Boom.
You've ordered it in America and you've got it, and you tell me it's really good. I haven't ordered it yet.
Oh, well, not only is the book good, but here's my question for Amy. Amy, we get a lot of ideas. I get a lot of ideas, things I want to do. Sometimes it feels like my mind is a tennis ball in a clothing dryer, in a clothes dryer. I mean, I'm just bouncing around. I don't think the why comes clear when you have ideas. I think the why comes clear when the idea has you. And I can use Sally as an example of that the idea of rowing across the Atlantic grabbed her and her mom and then her friends. Would you agree that the why is easier when the idea has you than when you have ideas?
I think it's really important that this is why I talk about the values, because if you really understand who you are as a person, then the why actually just naturally does come a lot easier. Because as I say, if you're going against your natural reactions and things, so to understand that I am very focused on contribution, on growth and learning. So everything I do in my business and in my work is very much connected around those elements, those values. So if you've got these ideas, there may be ideas, but unless they've got you, as you say, behind them, and you are really focused on delivering that and serving other people, and it's connecting all of those elements, but I do think that the why has to come first before you launch the business, because it has to have the foundation.
Yeah, I know I'm just playing with words, not you, but I do believe you just described a situation where the idea has the person. I mean, I've been most successful when I become obsessed with an idea, not when I say, well, I think it'd be a good idea to write another book, or I think it'd be another good idea to start another business. It's when the idea becomes consuming, and it has to be value driven or value coherent. So I thought it was a great presentation. Lots of meat. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. We'll go to next questions in a minute. I was going to say, Amy, that I always have the what first, because I get all these ideas and then I look at all the whats, maybe from my auto writing, and then I test it on a why on a scale of 0 to 10. How important is this to me before I then work out how I'm going to do it. So I think we've all got our different styles on doing these things, but the why is very important, as you say, or we could waste a lot of time or go down the wrong route. So I have our ladders up against the right wall. So I'm going to gallery view now just to see who else has got a question. Sally, you've got a question for us.
Well, I was interested in on your view, actually, where, you know, when you do something and your why is very certain at the start, and then at the end, the why is actually completely different from what you went out with in the first instance. And how important do you think it is to just run with the why you have now and worry about the why you think it will be later?
It evolves for absolutely, because you grow as a person, and the why will change and evolve as you grow through life. I found that my why I had 3 years ago, which was very focused on getting my husband out of a particular job that he wasn't happy and was actually destroying him. That was my why. That was my only focus to do right then. And then now I'm able to focus on other people and on a sort of a more global way. I didn't have to just focus on him and the family dynamic. So absolutely, you start with one and it'll take you on a journey. So, and this is why I said, don't sort of get over too wrapped up in the word purpose and why, because it is so personal to everybody. It's so unique. And if it means sorting yourself out first and then taking it to more levels, that's definitely the way to go. So
brilliant. Thank you Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Sally. Next question. Okay, if there's no more questions, nothing in the chat box, then I'll close the recording down, take it offline, and I'll save the chat box as well. You might want to save the chat box as well, Amy. There's some nice comments in there as well, and then we'll stop the recording, and then we'll fire a few more difficult questions at you, perhaps. So thank you very much, Amy Rowlinson. If you want to contact Amy, just search for, there's lots and lots of searches come up, and listen to her fantastic podcasts, and we'll see you shortly. Thanks for joining the live chat show.